You again? I thought I told you to get lost.
I told you I wouldn't take no for an answer.
Well, money usually makes me roll over, but not this time, sister.
Well, I have the money, and a bit more to sweeten the pot.
No amount of money can get me to take this job.
I think you'll change your mind after I've told you what I know.
You again? I thought I told you to get lost.
I told you I wouldn't take no for an answer.
Well, money usually makes me roll over, but not this time, sister.
Well, I have the money, and a bit more to sweeten the pot.
No amount of money can get me to take this job.
I think you'll change your mind after I've told you what I know.
Okay, here's a look at our set for our little film noir in iclone. As you can see, the lights have been turned up so we can see what's going on. We've taken down some of the walls, but basically it's very simple, and only build models for what you're going to see. You don't need to build a model or build any detail if you're not going to see it with the camera, and that's what we've got here. It's just simply a room, and we've got the window. We can look out and see some images of buildings, and a hallway, a very simple hallway. But as I said, I've removed a few of the walls so you can see what's going on. Here's the little film noir scene we just saw with our femme fatale waiting for the private eye to come through the door. I have their exchange and dialogue, and what I would like to do is discover the ideal way to film this scene. Obviously, iClone opens up with a preview camera, one camera. You can have as many as 16 cameras, I believe, in your scene. So we can choose cameras and camera angles to help tell this story, and it might be better to do it with more than just one camera. I like to use the preview camera as a work camera. If you double click on your object, I like to hit the X key on your keyboard, it allows you then to select that object, and notice by using the right mouse button and the mouse wheel you can go around your object. If you don't have a mouse wheel, you can hold down both the left and the right mouse button and zoom in and out. But the right mouse wheel will let you spin around your object. It becomes the center of that camera's world, as it were. And using the left mouse button and the right mouse button and the zoom wheel, or the buttons in combination, you can move around. So let's back up to the beginning, and let's take a look at our scene again, and let's figure out where might be a good place to put a camera. I'm going to double click on the femme fatale Mary again, and let me use that preview camera as what I would like to call maybe a work camera, and let me position that camera where I think might be a nice opening shot, or one of many opening shots. And let's hit the preview button and then go over here and do an add, and notice it adds a camera to our list. We now have two cameras, a preview camera and a camera. So now we can see our scene through this camera. It can remain static, or it might be better, obviously, as we can see, if the camera moved. So let me hit the space bar, and I'm just going to hit X, and I'm going to move the mouse with the left mouse and zoom in with the wheel, and use the right mouse button to rotate and to pan, and that might be a second position. So let's hit the stop rewind key, and now if we play back, notice the camera does a nice little move and reveals our characters. And if we want to change how the speed of that dolly move, we can of course bring that camera up in our timeline. And we go down to the camera tab, and there we are, and hit the transforms, and we see 2 keyframes. And if we want to speed that move up, we can slide that keyframe down a little bit and hit the back key, and now it's moving a little faster as we move into our scene. So that camera's doing a nice little dolly move and a push in. There we go to our scene. Now we can use that shot, and what I typically do is render that shot out as a file, an AVI file or a Windows Media file, and then edit those files in my nonlinear software. Something like Sony Vegas is what I use. Now that's one camera. Notice there is a new feature that is in iclone5, and it's the mini viewport. And what can happen is we can have the preview camera and any other camera playing. And notice we're watching the camera move, and we're seeing the preview camera in the mini viewport. You can change the size of the mini viewport and position it wherever you want to on your screen, but it helps you, maybe keeps you from getting lost. You can always see that preview camera, or any other camera for that matter, in the viewport. So it's a nice new feature. Close that out for now and turn that off. Okay, so that's one camera. Let's go back to our preview camera. Once again, with the X key, and zoom back. You notice we now have a representation for a camera right here. That's called camera. You can rename that camera anything you want. Now let's have maybe another camera for this scene. Let's go in, double click on Mary, and then I'm going to move around with my mouse keys left and right and the scroll wheel. Let's zoom in on that cigarette, deadly cigarette right there, and maybe have a shot that starts there, and let's slide the slider and let's move by dragging on the screen and moving up to this position here, like so. So now play that camera shot back. We didn't select a new camera. So let's go back to preview, which it was on preview. Okay, we have a camera there. Okay, there we go. Preview camera is on there. And now let's hit preview and add another camera. And now this is called camera 0. And if we slide our slider a little further, we can then move with our mouse and position this camera to reveal another mysterious shot. Now, as you can see, I've turned off all my lights, or changed the light settings so they're not as dramatic as they were at the beginning. A little easier to see, and I've removed a lot of the props that we had at the beginning. So that's another camera angle we might want to use. Now let's go back to preview. Okay, we've got 2 cameras now we've set up to film our scene. One's filming the cigarette, and one's over the shoulder doing a little dolly move, like so. Going to be over her left shoulder. Let's think about adding another camera over Benny's shoulder, our private eye. So let's kind of zoom in here once again with the mouse. Go over, and since we were over her left shoulder, one of the rules of editing sometimes you want to follow is we're going to keep that camera on this side. Camera over there, camera right here. Let's go over his shoulder, and I think that's going to work okay. Once again, let's select the preview camera, hit the add button, and now we've added a camera 1. And so if we scroll back, we'll probably have the door open. We may not use that portion of the shot, but we might use this portion of the shot. And there we go, a nice angle over his shoulder. So you don't have to, of course, render this entire area. You can use the little tick mark controls here and only select the portion of the shot, like right when he walks out and the door closes. That's probably all we'll want to render. And right as he's walking in is probably all we'll want to render. So we also have little control right here that selects the range we're going to render. And there we go. And notice, of course, I did remove my back walls. Those would have to be put back. That was camera 1. So let's go back to the preview camera, and let's zoom out with the mouse wheel. Once again, it's always good to select an object. I'm going to select this wall here, and that now becomes an area for the camera to rotate around. Here we go to the front, and notice we did have another camera angle where we dollied up, boomed up from the hotel sign to the window, and that might be a nice spot for another camera. So you could position the preview camera once again where you like it, then bring up the preview camera, hit the add button, and now we've added camera 2. So now let's slide the slider down, the light flashes, and maybe about there we can zoom into our second position for the camera, like so. And of course we need to add our back wall in the ceiling. So there's that particular angle. Let's hit play and just see a rough idea. The camera booms up, stops. So that's another camera angle. Keep adding camera angles as you find points of interest that help tell the story. And that's all it's about, really, is the best way to tell the story with what you've got at hand. And you can take a relatively simple set and make it look rather dramatic. And here we are in Sony Vegas, the nonlinear editor that I happen to use. And on the timeline, we can see all the various cameras that I used in iClone to create the scene. Some I chose not to use, but the beauty of rendering all the different cameras, you can make decisions right here at this point and decide if the shot's appropriate or not. But you've got a lot to choose from, and that's the bottom line.